your hosts, Rain Carnegie and Britt Loveson.
And we are live, episode 7 of Part of the Game. Your hosts, Rain Carnegie, who's not here right now. Rainbow.
What's going on?
B-Love, Britt Loveson.
One is a lonely number.
You know what? I got in here today, and clearly you're not beside me. And it felt a little lonely. It was a little cold,
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
I didn't have you, next to me. But I'm actually kind of liking it now. I got all this room to myself. I'm just doing my own thing here. It's kind of great.
I got a T-shirt and shorts on right now in the comfort of my house right now. I could get used to this. So don't, go making yourself nice and comfortable over there. It's nice and comfortable over here, too. This might be a permanent thing.
We'll see. Maybe another guest or a host will be beside me. We gotta sign the contract. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm pretty sure you already sold your life away to me a long time ago. So I'm good.
That's it. We're married in the podcast world, I guess.
That's it.
So we got a pretty
prenup though.
Don't sign one or sign one. Penalty or part of the game.
I'll get to that later.
We got a pretty cool show. Before we get into that, though, we're going to do our weekly kind of episode thing where we give a small business, a local small business a shout out. Obviously we did Sugo. We gave Jason Ricci a nice shout out for All-Star Hockey School. We did Faro. So we want to make this a trend.
We also did Chris Blackwood.
We did Chris Blackwood, exactly. And we want to make this a thing now. So today we're going to go with Toronto Hockey Repair, an old, this is a family-run business. They sell hockey gear. They got all your stick needs. They do the best skate sharpenings.
The best. I wish I would have used them before we went to that finals at Maple Leaf Gardens. Because then we would have won.
Thing, was it?
It's a skate thing. I'm telling you, my skates, they were dull. Somebody messed with them. I'm never gonna let you let that one down.
Now, with skate sharpening, they do profiling and the whole jazz, the whole 9 yards, right? So Toronto Hockey Repair, you could visit them at 1592 Bloor Street West. Theo's the owner. I think he runs it with his mom. It's a family-run business.
Love that.
Bryden, a good friend of mine, he's like the head skate sharpener guy there, and he'll help you out, pick the equipment you need. And Chris Tronger, just a bunch of good guys. And yeah, go support THR if you can.
THR in the house.
That's it. But yeah, moving along, we got a pretty cool show today. Another guest. I don't know, Rainbow, we're cooking with steam, buddy.
I have no idea. These people must not watch the episodes prior to them because they keep on saying yes, and we always get the best content ever. So I'm looking forward to this guest today. That's for sure.
Absolutely, and it's funny. We've talked to a GM. We've talked to a player. We've talked to a player agent or a player advisor. So it's kind of, we keep getting these guests, and it's pretty informative to our audience. And especially when there's, not a lot of hockey being played. Why not educate yourself? Absolutely.
Why not educate yourself? Be a student of the game.
You know what? The best part of it, too, I'm learning a lot, too. Every day I'm learning something new, and just listening to these guys talk, and, it's been good for us as well.
100%, and I've also, now you're cutting me off all of a sudden. It's a good thing I'm not right there so I can give you an elbow. I'm also learning that I love having my space over here continue on with what you were saying.
That's it. We can't give each other our under-the-table cues anymore,
No, hey, your turn. My turn, hey.
They don't see what happens in Hollywood, It's all the behind-the-scenes stuff, right?
All the behind-the-scene cues.
Exactly. Moving along. So today's guest, pretty special guest to me. kind of been a bit of a mentor to me in the coaching world. Since I've got into coaching, I've had the pleasure and, the honor of coaching next to this, great hockey mind. Probably has been in the game, 20 plus years, I want to say, with helping with, player development, coaching, scouting, just, he's been in the hockey world for a long, long time. I've mentioned him on the show already a few times. He's a bit of a human Rolodex. If you ask him a name, he always, oh yeah, I know him, and he's just been in the game so long.
An OG.
And a man who doesn't hide his feelings, or he tells it how it is. He tells it like it is, and doesn't matter if he's talking to Scotty Bowman, Lou Lamoriello, or your average Joe Parent. He'll let you know how he feels, and it's pretty refreshing to have that kind of personality in the hockey world. And clearly it's been working since he's been in the game for, like I said, 20 plus years. But without further ado, Lui Vigilanti, everybody.
Hi guys, Britt, Rain, thanks for having me on the show. I've been watching a few episodes, and it's been really entertaining. You've had some good and some interesting guests, some that I know personally, which is a funny thing. But I'm looking forward to tonight's show. Hopefully we have a good time.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here. Like I said, just getting into the coaching world, I'm a pretty new coach myself. Rain, it's his first year as a head coach, so he's pretty new as well. So who better to have on the show than somebody who's, pretty much been through it all, like yourself. Talking about that, like, man, what a prolific career you've had, like 20 plus years. And that's just in kind of the coaching and scouting and, player development, the world. But you were also a player yourself. So we could be talking like 30 plus years in the world of hockey. But tell us how you kind of got into hockey and into the game, especially, you're an Italian, an Italian whose dad probably didn't speak much English. So hockey probably was a bit foreign to you guys. Tell us how you kind of got into the hockey world.
Yes, no problem. The one thing that, so I'm 53 years old. So I'm a little bit older than both of you guys. Back in the day, and having a little brief conversation and understanding some of the tough times that Rain must have went through. Us as, coming back, my dad came over here in the 60s, as immigrants back then, and even us as Italians, we went through a little hardship too. Not as hard as much as, Rain probably went through, but being a European descent, we had some derogatory remarks, playing with basically white Anglo-Saxon, white Anglos, and as we called Canadians back in the day when we started playing hockey. I have to thank my dad. My dad, when he came over in would have been the early 60s or whenever it was, he had the fortunate measure to go to St. Michael's College. And you're thinking, well, how did that happen? He came over, and back then, the town that he grew up in was called San Miguel, which is St. Michael's. For some reason, through the Vatican, a connection between the priests at St. Mike's and back in his hometown, my grandfather brought him over when he was 18. And while my grandfather worked, he plucked him at St. Michael's College to learn English. And he had the great fortune of going to school with guys like Frank Mahovlich, Dave Keon, Jerry Cheevers. These guys were all in his class, in his regular classes in high school. So he's just, an Italian immigrant, knows nothing about hockey, knows nothing who these guys are. And because he was kind of boarding at the school too, because my grandfather at the time, my dad told me, worked so many long hours in construction that, someone had to look after him. So there was a program set up for these Italian-born kids coming over, trying to learn English as a first language. They were boarded with the priest in behind the school. There was a rectory there where the there used to be the borders and stuff, back in the 60s. Who knows what it is now, but that's where he said he stayed. Anyways, long story short, after school, he'd just walk over to the rink. And that was going on, hockey. So he became a hockey fan. And, then he started watching his classmates. They started talking to him, stuff, why don't you come watch one of our games? Because back then, the St. Michael's Buzzards or St. Michael's Majors were still a first team. And they had these guys before they went to the NHL. So he got into hockey by watching them. And eventually, as growing up, we were the only kids in our street that played hockey because of my dad. All the other immigrant families, we had mostly Italian neighborhood, a couple of Portuguese. They all played ball hockey, but my dad was the only one that put us into ice hockey. And going on the teams that we did when we started young, we were the only Italians, Europeans on the team. There was maybe one other one, couple, but obviously we were the minority, the visible minority, not visible, but more of a cultural standpoint. So, we kind of got the gears too. Not as bad as probably Rain got it, a little bit more derogatory when he was going through, but we know what's going on in today's society and things haven't changed. But going back, again, as I started, because of my dad, I played hockey, and I got the fortune to play junior hockey. I was never good enough to play in the OHL. You always think you're a good enough player, but OHL was a different dynamic back then, and hockey itself was a different dynamic. Not that I was good enough, but you had to be at least 6 foot to play in the OHL back then. But I was good enough to play junior A and junior B, and I did that, and I was a pretty good student. Along with that, I after the case playing my junior career, I went to York University, played there, and eventually I went out to Nova Scotia, where I did my teacher's college, and I played 1 year on the team there. But my second year I was there, I actually coached, and that's how my coaching career kind of got into the track, not on track because of that. My interest just, I knew I wasn't going to go anywhere in the game playing hockey as far as making a living out of it, but I was falling back on my teaching degree. I got all that done. So I said, I wanted to stay in the game, and the next possible way to stay in the game is coaching. So that's how I started coaching, that.
That's pretty cool.
And then I just went in, and then when I came back in the mid-90s, I started coaching. A friend of mine brought me in to coach the Wexford Raiders, and I had the opportunity to coach the Wexford Raiders. And always when I was a younger boy, I helped my dad. My dad, because he was into hockey and really loved the game, he started coaching my brother. I have a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me, started coaching his minor hockey team, which was the York Toros back then. And I actually started coaching when I was 14 or 15 because my dad, even though he knew the game, he couldn't skate. So he couldn't go on the ice. He couldn't go on the ice and run practices. So I'd go on the ice when I was available, and there'd be somebody else, another parent, that kind of would run practices, just like nowadays, the regular AA levels, usually his parent coaches and all that. But I actually started coaching and got a little bit of taste of coaching when I was 14, 15, 16, that to get away, because once I started playing junior hockey, I didn't have the time, and then going to university, didn't have the time to devote my craft until I was finished playing, until I finished school. And then once I finished university in my mid-20s, I basically started coaching with the Wexford organization with Kevin Burkett and Stan Butler, kind of gave me opportunities to help coach there. I actually coached midget for a couple of years. We won one of the city championships and lost in the final. And then one of my teammates, and you guys know him, he's pretty familiar guy in the hockey world, Mike Fuda. He at the time was coaching, just started coaching the St. Michael's Majors, the OHL, and asked me to basically give him a hand and come on board as a coach or whatever I could do to help. And from then, I have him to thank for giving me my opportunity to coach at that level and be involved at that level. That obviously opened a lot of doors moving forward, not only in that industry, but also in minor hockey too. So that's how I kind of got involved. And
that's such a crazy story.
Yeah.
And Vidge, you and I've heard so much about you, but we've never actually met until today. And wouldn't you know it, you mentioned a gentleman by the name of Mike Fuda. who was very instrumental in my hockey career and was actually my coach for the under-17 team.
Yes.
And he's actually going to be our guest next week. And so I'm just meeting you today. You're telling me that somebody that's going to be on our show following you, that was instrumental in your career and so instrumental in my career, was, what this is crazy. This is like 6 degrees of separation. It's like everybody knows everybody.
So just to give you, I don't know if you guys know this, even before anything, one of your guests a couple of weeks ago, the last week, your buddy Joe Shoes, or Bert's buddy Joe Shoes, I know him. But the previous guest, Joseph Garaffa, I don't know if you guys are familiar, I grew up with him. I grew up with his dad. He was my neighbor. And Joseph played for me spring hockey. He came on the ice with me. I did some skill sessions with him. Not that he needed any. He was such a good player, but it's just funny how everybody in this, and like you're telling me about Cuda next week,
so
they're connecting all the time.
So the nickname Rolodex is accurate for you. You seem to know
the human Rolodex.
The human Rolodex is just like this guy, this person. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, you know, Rain, that the hockey world is a small world.
Yes, it is.
Everybody's interconnected. Everybody knows each other.
Yes, it is.
So that's why you kind of keep your nose clean and stay on the right path. And, just don't burn any bridges and try to make as many contacts and leave as good impressions on as many people as possible. And you guys are young guys coming through, and you'll learn that as you go forward.
Well, speaking of, not burning bridges, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you're a kind of a guy from coaching with you. You don't really... reserve your feelings or hold back on what you think or feel. And like I said, you've been in the game for a long, long time. We just heard where it's all started and where you come from. But, what makes you think, like, how does that help, your development in being a coach and a scout, like just being yourself and kind of not, playing the game type of thing. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of guys in the hockey industry, and even Rain can attest to, because he was a player, are probably his most probably memorable coaches, or his best coaches, were the ones that were straight honest with him, that didn't lie to him, didn't want to make him hear what he went, didn't BS him. They just told him flat out, hey, this is the way it is. This is the way. So, I've always appreciated people being straight with me as I was growing up older. And my dad always taught me, my mom too, more important, my mom, God rest her soul, she said, why do you got to lie to people for? Like, why do you got to lie? As a kid, you're always trying to cover up things and all that. So I learned that a young lesson, that just try to be honest. Honesty will carry you a long way. And if you're speaking from the heart, even though you're telling someone they don't want to hear, they'll understand that you're just doing it for their betterment. So that's how I try to tell people. And a lot of people don't like to hear the reality and the truth. They want to hear what they expect you to tell them, which may be, as a parent, as a hockey parent, may not be the right thing, or may not be what they want to hear about their kids. In the scouting industry, I've learned you can't BS. You just, if you tell people what you think and how you think, and if you're right more than you're wrong, people are going to respect your opinion a lot more. So playing the game and going here and there and telling guys this and that, or, my business, I don't need to make money in hockey to survive. A lot of people need to do that. Thus, they play the game, as you guys say. They're not up front. They string people along, either be a dollar sign in the end, moving forward. So that's why.
So Mr. Vigilante.
Yes.
Job of a scout. A real scout is to be honest.
Yes.
So you've been scouting for a long time. You're now with the Guelph Storm.
Yes.
I've been for the last 3 or 4 years.
4 seasons, yes. This is my fourth season with them.
But prior to the Guelph Storm,
yes,
I want to take you back. Britain says that you have a memory like an elephant. You don't forget. I want to take you back to something that I don't forget. The 2001 OHL entry draft. I played for the Toronto Marlies. I was...
What number were you? You had a high number. 5. You had 7. A single digit. 7, okay.
7.
Yeah, single digit. I remember single digit. I was 5. Who was 5? Hastings on your team?
Was Hastings 5 or was Hawley 5?
Hawley, the stiff, the lefty. Yeah, he was 5. Yeah.
Hey, that's my point. He was my. Hey, Chris Hawley and Ryan Hastings were the twin towers. They were the 2 top D in the 85 age group.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Not looking at Brent Burns now.
Yes.
I'm talking about Brent Burns back in minor hockey when he wasn't 6'6".
Okay, at the time.
At the time.
Thought, but projecting.
You can't project 6'6".
Well, they can't play. Neither of them could play.
Hastings was a player.
Hastings was better than the other guy. The other guy was a stiff.
Hawley's my boy.
Hey, good kid, but
maybe in junior, but I'm talking about that Marley's team. He in the GTHL. He was not a stiff.
But the junior Canadians beat you guys.
Yes, they did. But I came halfway through the season, right? Remember, I left and I went to Ottawa. I was in Ottawa at the beginning of the year. But besides all that,
okay, let's go back.
I moved back.
I moved back out of hockey.
All right.
Never.
Okay.
So
yes.
I end up getting drafted in the first round.
16th overall or 17th overall?
I should have went 16th overall, but we're going to get to that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Belleville picked right after us, right?
Belleville picked 2 after you, but we'll get to that.
Okay, all right.
Okay, there were 5 or 6 teams before Belleville, that said, if you're around, we're going to take you. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm not only pissed off at I'm not pissed off. I'm not only curious about you. I'm curious about 4 or 5 other teams that also said, if you're around, we'll draft you, and drafted somebody else. My question, and I'm not saying that Toronto said that they would draft me. My question is, why did Toronto not draft a Toronto kid with the pick at 16?
And here I am. I'm just going to be honest with you, Rain.
Yes.
You were one of the worst skaters I've ever seen.
Come on!
Well, yeah, you had first round talent, skill.
Yes.
But 9th round skating ability.
Really?
And 10th round work ethic.
Come on!
So that's why you didn't get selected by us in the first round. Now, I'm not saying the guy we selected was he probably was at the time a more complete player than we were looking for. We took Ryan Rohrbeck, I remember.
My boy, Ryan Rohrbeck.
Good kid, good family, good people.
Great kid, good people.
You weren't part of our criteria. You didn't fit our criteria moving forward as a player. Now, what I'm really shocked with is the team with the biggest ice surface in the league.
Well, this is the thing. This is the
worst skating player they could possibly take in the first round.
And then that worst skating player scored almost 20 goals as an underager on the biggest ice.
That was good.
On the biggest ice.
Yeah.
So
you just went to hide in front of the net, and those guys passed you the puck. Because you didn't make any plays. Believe you me, you didn't. It's not that you came across the blue line and beat a guy 1-on-1. You just parked yourself in the slot.
You may have came to maybe 2 games and saw me on my off nights, if that's your assessment of me with the puck, because nobody was better at with the puck.
No. You had good hands and tight and all that.
Yeah.
And in the open ice.
Well, you're not beating guys in the neutral zone. Come on.
Come on. Not now.
You know what? In Halifax, when you had one of your best years, that's when I think, you actually had those abilities when you, like Vig is, commenting on. We did post a video of one of Rain's beating a player, a defender in open ice, with a little hezzy move. So, it wasn't so much
He did have skill.
Yeah,
he had skill. He didn't have the speed. But
I had the speed. I didn't look the prettiest. I didn't look the prettiest. And to your point, you were an ugly skater. I was an ugly skater, and I still have a weak right inside edge. So you're absolutely right. My skating. I never did power skating growing up or anything like that, and that was one of the things that I wish we would have had the financial means, the resources to do, right? Yeah. So no slight to my mom, we just didn't have that, so we had to compensate other ways, right? So I wouldn't say 9th round skating. That's a little harsh.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a little harsh. Like maybe a sixth
rounder. Because of your skating, you weren't a first round pick. Because of your skating.
Fair enough. How many points did Roybeck put up his underage year? I'm just like
I couldn't tell you. I'd be lying to you if I told you.
I think I had more goals than he had points his first 2 years in the league. But hey, you guys can take the skating any day of the week. I'll take the skill.
Hey, but getting to
don't disrespect the Ryan.
I'm gonna pump Rain's tires just a little bit, because normally, let's get a view from a scout here. When, a guy goes, what was it, Rain, 18th overall to Belleville?
18th overall.
So you went 18th overall. Like, how often does an 18th overall pick, like, correct me if I'm wrong, how often do they actually get the ice time and are able to put up 18 goals in a season their rookie year? Like, usually, I mean, it's maybe the top 5 guys that are really, getting the ice time and all that. Like, so that was,
I was fortunate.
I'll throw
Jim
you a dish
Holton.
here. I'll throw you an assist
I appreciate that, but Jim Holton gave me every opportunity to get good ice time and play with really good players. My first year there, we had, I think, 3 or 4. And Louis, you might be able to 3 or 4 of the top. No, we had
was Randy Rowe on that team?
No, Robinson,
Renzi was
Robinson, Renzi, and Malcolm Hunt were our overagers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or was it? Anyways, but we had 4 of the top 10 OHL scoring leaders on our team.
Wow.
So even if I was on the second power play unit, I was playing with,
So a couple of goals might have went off your butt.
Bounced off might have gone off my butt, but hey, still 18. So, Cy Young though, 8 assists.
No, so speaking of that was, he brought up the skating, whatever. You guys had a good banter there. But speaking of, scouting and skating, so Lou, is it fair to say that, skating is almost the most important be-all, end-all when looking, for the next, talented player to draft?
Yeah, for me, skating is a big part of the game. If you can't skate and keep up, you're not going to be able to play at the upper levels. Like you're watching minor hockey, and when you get to the next levels, and even on top of that, if you can't skate, you're not going to be able to play. Especially now the game's evolved such with no impingement, no infractions as far as holding guys up. The game has changed. You got to be able to get around. So and back then it was the same way. Big guys always got looked at an extra look because of size. Now the whole drafting philosophy is all related to skill. Skill, you can always, if you get a big skilled guy that can play, that's a bonus. But if you look at now, Rain, what would that have been? What are we at now? The 85s? We're almost 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Was your OHL draft. Because
Yeah.
now we're this year, if there's a draft, which it's the 05s, and you were the 85s.
Yep.
So it's 20 years ago.
20 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, think of 20 years ago would have been your draft year.
Yep.
This is your 20th anniversary. Yeah. So,
Very cool.
I think you did, you had a pretty good career drafted. Think about, guys ahead of you that got drafted that really didn't pan out to where the status of their draft was. And that's, sometimes that's not the player's fault.
Right.
That's the scout's fault.
Right.
And that's the team's fault for taking them at a spot where they should have no business being. Now, let me ask you a question, Ray. Just for instance, the year after you got picked, I don't know if it was the 86s or the 87s. How long were you in Belleville for? 2 or 3 years?
I was there for 2.5 years, and then I didn't get power play time on a 5-on-3 and asked to be traded.
Okay. So you had a bad. So, anyways, just a quick thing. Who was the guy you guys drafted after you? Who was your first round pick the year after you? Do you remember?
Ooh, Barton was the last name.
Okay, that guy never played a game.
Never played a game.
Because he couldn't play. You know where we had him on our list?
Who?
10th round.
Wow.
Imagine you make a mistake like that. So I'm just saying, imagine this poor guy comes to training camp.
Yeah.
And then he gets put on the ice and everybody's looking at him to be, this superstar player. He's got to stick out. He's a first round pick. The poor guy had no shot. So I'm just saying, and that guy, I remember too, watching him. I think it was defense. He used to be a goalie, the scout told me in that year.
Yeah, he was.
Like he was a goalie a couple of years back and they put him out. Like, who's watching these guys? So anyways, a long story short, skating is a big part of the game. If you can't skate nowadays, you can skate and not do anything and look good. But at least you can get up and down the ice. Mm-hmm. If you can skate, you have skill, now you're even a better player. If you can skate, have skill, and now you can think the game and understand how to play, those are your usually elite players and the guys. Now, you can have 2 out of the 3. You can not be a good skater, have good skill, good hockey sense, and be less of a skater and still play at a high level. And that's why Rain kind of got where he had to be, because he was, let's say, I gotta remember, you weren't the worst skater. You were an ugly skater. You got around okay, but it was ugly, right? It was an ugly stride and all that. So for me, the biggest thing is I'm watching guys that can skate. Okay?
But not guys that can score? Anyways,
because
I scored every game.
No, I know, but that's you. My attitude is if you can't get to those spots, you're not going to be able to score.
But that's
my philosophy. That's my philosophy.
So enough of that. We're in this lockdown.
Yes.
No season.
05
draft this year.
Yes.
What any words of encouragement, what does it look like from your perspective? Like, you still have to prepare your GM for a draft. The draft is still happening. They're still going to want information. So do you guys have a program within Guelph where you guys are looking at, so let's say it's the 05 draft year, were you looking at them last year when they actually had a season and had a little file on them while it was the 04?
Yes.
Do you guys have something like that?
So luckily, so basically, just to give you an idea how the scouting systems for most teams, how they work, an ideal situation would be you have an area scout in all the leagues in Ontario. So just so you guys know that we have the GTHL, which is the best and the biggest, most popular league. Then you have the SCTA, okay, which is the teams, for instance, Burlington, Oakville, Guelph, that corridor that goes all the way down to Niagara region. That's known as the Southern Central Hockey League. It's STTA. Then you have the Alliance, which is everything west of Hamilton. Yeah. Then you have the ETA, which is those areas, towns such as Markham, Richmond Hill, Ajax, all the way.
Where you guys coach?
Yes, where we coach. We coach in the ETA, the Eastern District of the OMHA. And then you have your Ottawa area, which is Ottawa East, it's called.
That's right? Where I played.
Ontario East.
Yep.
That's that in all the Ottawa teams. Then you have your northern teams, the Northern Ontario League. And then you have Hockey North, which is just Thunder Bay. And then on top of that, you have all the U.S. leagues you have to cover. So ideally, you want one guy in each area. A team like, an area like Toronto, because it's so big and it's so saturated with talent, you might have 2 eyes watching. And then you have your one of your guys is the head scout, director of scouting, however you want to call it. And then obviously you have your GM or assistant GM, depending on the responsibilities. So in saying that, the area guys basically, and I always do it, because I'm in the rink so often and I'm coaching on top of scouting, I'm always watching the younger guys. For instance, this year, if everything was perfect, we'd be watching the 06s or the 06s from before. If we had a season, we were coaching the 06s. I kind of know them. So I'm already in the rinks. And there's a lot of scouts, they're watching, especially in the playoffs. I would watch the playoffs of the year younger, the Bantams. Even though I'm scouting minor mention, I'd go watch, you're getting the 8 best teams when you funnel those down to the middle. So all those teams have talent. Right. So you have a little bit of an idea of who the players are. Right. Okay, then you can watch their progressing moving forward. This year's been a challenge. Okay, go ahead.
Do you obviously you want to go and get the most, bang for your buck and get the most talent on the ice and be able to see them in the best on best environment to project for the next level. But there's a lot of kids that don't get to play on those top echelon teams. You have the kids that are at the bottom of the barrel, don't make the playoffs, aren't going to the OHL Cup, aren't going to be in the big spotlights. But there's still some guys.
No, every team has at least one guy.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's where you have to, as a scout, you have to make sure you overturn every rock. So my responsibility for the GTHLs, I go, make sure I know the book on all 12 guys. All 12 teams. Yep. And then on top of that, part of the process of getting ready for the draft is you talk to all the coaches and you get their input. Even those lower teams, who's a guy that you think is going to grow, that has big parents, who's a kid that works hard, that has a good work ethic, who's some kid that has some skill, but he's not really exposed enough on the team because he's such on a weak team where he gets overmatched and overpowered when he's playing the top teams. Mm-hmm. So I always talk to all the coaches and find out, and break those names down. Even though I don't agree with them or don't think, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, this guy doesn't seem, but I'll go back and watch again. You know what I mean? Obviously, the better teams you get more looks on. Yep. And, like I said, this year has been a little bit more of a challenge because there's no games. Mm-hmm. So we've been relying on a few of those skill sessions that have been running where, you go out and watch 10 kids. There's been some things that have been running up north of the city. Up in Vaughan has been running a couple of, I don't know if you want to call them prospects, weekends, or showcases.
Combines.
A single days, right? Combines, that's it, more combines. Anywhere outside of the city, they've been playing some games. Some at least, having 5-on-5 games with 10 skaters aside. So anywhere outside the GTA, so as far as, Oshawa and further east, on the other side, west of Guelph, London's been running some skates. So some guys have been going out. So some kids are getting looked at, but it's not everybody. So some kids are going to get lost in the shuffle just by not getting enough views. It's just we can't really see everybody.
Do you think that they'll, maybe do a shorter draft this year just because of that, not being able to see everybody, or do you think it's still going to be status quo, go through the list, and there's going to be kids that haven't been seen that maybe get picked?
How many rounds is it? 20? Do they do 20 rounds?
There's 15.
15
rounds. 15 rounds. There's 15 rounds.
And as we learned, Ryan Callahan was 15th round in your draft. In your draft.
In my draft
year, right?
And and a guy like Ryan Callahan, he was basically taken as a favor. Where I remember talking to the GM, Alan Miller at the time. I said, "Where did you get this guy from?" Well, I didn't even see him play. So somebody from that area who's connected to the organization called and said, "Listen, in the late rounds, take this guy. He's not a bad hockey player. You never know what happens." And there's been stories like that. There's been guys that have been walk-ons, never drafted, that turned out to play. Like, Anthony Stewart's brother, Chris Stewart. Yep. He was never drafted. He just got a chance in Kingston because of Jimmy. And Jimmy coached the team there. Yep. And Anthony was part of the team.
And Larry Mavity.
And Mav, they just said, okay, bring him on. Yep. And not for a joke, but they're doing him a favor. Then I remember at that time talking to Jimmy, they were short bodies, so they had to sign him because so many guys were away for NHL camps just to have enough to start the season. And then one thing led to another.
And Chris was beating everybody up.
Yes.
Tough kid. Tough guy.
He was beating everybody up, and he did well for him. You got to give him credit, and that's a great story. Mm-hmm. That's a great story.
I know that story very well.
Yeah.
And Rain actually, in episode 1, we kind of talked about Rain's career. He almost had that same situation happen to you in Halifax. Like, we know you had a great minor career and stuff, but I forget the guy's name that you knew on Halifax. You were scrolling through the list. Was it Jimmy something?
Jimmy Scheroth.
Jimmy Scheroth, and you're like, wow, Jimmy Scheroth plays on Halifax. You called him up, he got you on the ice with him, and all of a sudden, that season or the season later, you're alternate captain of the Halifax Moosehead. So,
it was good. It was
opportunities like that when they kind of don't come too often, but when they do, you got to take advantage and look at your last career game against Sidney Crosby in the Q, right? Or his last.
Why do you always bring that up?
I always stick it to him, Vidge, with that one. But you know what? Speaking of telling it how it is and going back to Vidge, giving his, honest opinion on things and not really holding back. I remember a time, like you said, it's not every time a parent's going to want to hear the honest truth, but, at the end of the day, it's honesty. But, going back to when we were coaching together in Richmond Hill, one of the parents, Vidge is a busy guy. He wasn't, if he missed a game here and there, it was felt amongst the parents. A parent came up to me, said, "Hey, Coach Britt, you're great. We love you and stuff, but so-and-so, our son, he's really missing Vidge out there, giving him that extra, giving that extra boost and, telling him how it is, So I like he said, it's might not be the things that they want to hear, per se, but at least he's telling it how it is, and I think a lot of people respect that in the hockey world when it could be, kind of jaded sometimes, and you're not getting, the full truth. And and like I said, going back to that as well, at a young age, you weren't kind of the player, that you were, so you didn't take up playing, but you went to university, you said, and you became a teacher. So you're not only, a coach in the hockey world, but you're actually, teaching the young generation, just,
You're just a coach, period.
You're just like the life coach, right? So tell us about that. Like, was teaching kind of just, were you born to be the life coach? You are?
Yeah, well, I've always when you come to a certain reality in life, you have to always choose a path and decide what you're going to do. As young hockey players, Ray, I'm sure you and we all growing up want to play in the NHL, and that dream we kind of chase as long as we can. So basically, I even went over for a little cup of coffee, or not a cup of coffee, an espresso, and played some professional hockey in Italy for a bit. And that didn't pan out as much as it did. I just went back and just finished my degree, went to teacher's college, and pursued, it's time, you have to do it yourself. It's always better for you to understand when it's time to leave the game than someone to tell you. It's harder when someone tells you, what, son, you shouldn't be playing anymore. It's time. It's always harder. But it's better when you realize that on your own. It's just a lot easier to deal with. So I came to reality, and I knew I wasn't going to be good enough to play in the national hockey, but I always wanted to play professional hockey. And then when I went over to Italy, because I had an Italian passport, it was a little bit, and those European leagues are not as much as great as they seem to be. There's a lot of politics involved, probably more than here in North America. But bottom line is, when I went there and I saw, this is not what it cut out to be, and it's time for me to come back. I went into teaching. Great. I was lucky to get my teaching degree, and then teaching allowed me to understand and become a better coach, because you start dealing with kids, and you start learning and getting experience in dealing with kids. Now, on top of that, not only you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with parents too. So it was an easy translation from being a teacher, and obviously, as a coach, and you guys will learn, coaching is teaching. You have to be able to teach the kids how to play. And not only teaching them how to play, guys, and you talked about being a life coach, you want to teach them how to be good people. That's my biggest thing. Being part of the Catholic school board, I'm a high school teacher, it's called upon us sometimes, and I've taught religion, and we have to be able to teach religion courses. And, we all try to be good people. I'm not saying that I'm the greatest person. I'm sure all of us have our downfalls and all that as individuals, but more importantly, understanding that, having some good qualities as an individual is going to help you in life. And that's what kind of helped me as far as being a role model. And I try to be a role model as best as I can, as a teacher, but also as a coach, because as coach, you have to have, there's no difference than being a coach. Sorry, there's no difference than being a teacher than being a coach, because you're dealing with the same situations where you have to be able to motivate people. You have to make sure you're prepared. You have to make sure your knowledge has to be a lot more than the kids. So you have to be prepared in the subject matters, and only in possibly showing up every day, being on time, showing these leadership skills. So I've been teaching my whole life, more or less, the last 25 years, not only in the classroom, but also as a coach, right? And you want to also mentor people too. And in any field, there's always, you want to pass on your information to younger people and make sure you're telling them when they're doing something wrong. And
is Britain a good mentoree?
Yeah, Britain's good, but we have our issues with our colleague, Tom Crash, where we'd always have to straighten him out the odd time. And there's sometimes where, and having a little bit more experience, there's sometimes where, even Brit, or even more me, because I have a little bit more experience, a little bit older, where I have to pull him aside and say, hey, buddy, you can't be doing that, or you can't be doing this, or you should be doing this instead. So, you're trying to help people out, but being a teacher has helped me a lot, and has transferred a lot of those skills that I've learned in teaching into the hockey world because, we said, coaches, you have to teach. You have to be a mentor. You have to have leadership skills. You got to be a good communicator. You got to tell the kids, talk to the kids. I try not to talk to the parents, but in today's day and age, when it comes to hockey, you have to deal with them, and that's probably the most difficult thing is dealing with the parents. Mm-hmm. The kids aren't a problem.
Yeah,
it's more the parents that become problem that give hockey and cause issues in hockey. It's the parents more than anything.
So you're a teacher by trade, but you coach hockey, on a bench with you all the time.
Yeah.
So you're a scout. You also run a hockey program for player development. HDG, is that?
Yes, Hockey Development Group.
Yep, the Hockey Development Group. And I'm sure you do some school hockey coaching there too.
Yes, I help the school teams. I go to an.
When do you sleep?
Yeah,
I don't. I watch hockey, and
that's what I was kind of
the greatest thing. Yeah, the greatest thing about this pandemic is just sitting at home and watching hockey every night.
Speaking of which, we're missing the Leaf game right now.
Yeah, the Leaf game. Yeah, it's 4-3. I know. So I'll watch it. 4-3. 4-3 win. Leafs are winning 4-3.
Let's go.
Okay, guys. Let's go.
But anyways,
Go ahead, Brett.
No, I was gonna get back to that. Let's say, let's live a week of Lui Vigilanti or Coach Lou or Scout Lou. In a week, what's kind of your record for maybe most games watched or most arenas or most kilometers traveled? Tell us what a week could look like for you.
Well, there was so
do a post and pre.
Yeah.
Or a pre and a post COVID.
Okay,
what does your week look like now?
Well, right now we're sitting at home, all of us doing nothing. That's why we're doing this, which is great, right?
Yeah.
You would still be doing it if you were doing other things too.
Yes, I would find time.
Okay.
Just be doing a different night, right? So during this COVID, I still been on the ice 2 to 3 nights a week, as far as running some skill sessions with kids as young as 8 years old, and then the OHL age kids, because there's a group of kids or the older kids, junior age kids that I still skate and all that we do some development stuff with. So just to keep busy, that's been that. Then coaching too. If we had a team, we didn't have a team with the new restrictions, and we were supposed to be coaching the 08 Red Wings, but now I guess I don't even know if it's next year yet or this year yet. Still, who knows where we are with minor hockey, but. Tom is going to be coaching the 06 Titans team, and myself and Britt are planning to help out. So that really hasn't been transpired as far as getting going yet, but I'm sure it will. But let's say pre-COVID. So, on any night, depending, where I live, and, you guys are familiar with the city, Scotiapound, there, if I got a scout or I got a coach, there's games that, that Scotiapound's like 7 minutes away from my house. So for me to get up, I go and watch the minor midget nights, usually Tuesday nights. Spend my nights at Scotiapound on a Tuesday night. Then I'd be running to practice with the team that I help coach with. Again, back to the rink to scout. Then the odd weekend tournaments that will be going on usually once a month. In a regular season, there's always one main tournaments. And Rain, probably the tournaments you played in as a kid back in minor midget, most of them are still going on as far as Silver Stick, Marley Tournament, preseason showcase. There's always the biggest one in October on Thanksgiving weekend is the one in London, right? And then, every month there's a few tournaments. And then after January, there's a big tournament in Peterborough. Then there's the OHL Cup. So every month there's an event. And then you got to follow up with your round of games and just keeping up with your teams. The odd crossover into another weekend where there is something going on just outside the city that you can run into. So you work as a scout, as hard as you want to work. You know what I mean? But obviously, the more you're in the rink, the more answers you get. You don't find the answers sitting at home on your couch.
And
go get the answers on players, go to the rink and watch.
You know what's great about Louis being all over, the country basically, or the province, scouting and being arena to arena, is no matter where we went, And when we were coaching Richmond Hill, we were in different cities. We were in some, low-key towns where we had no idea what is, in the town. But Louis, believe it or not, every time, without a doubt, knew the best place to eat. There wasn't a place where Louis didn't know. We would be in, we'd be in Lindsay, Ontario. And he'd be like, okay, guys, follow me after the game. We'll talk about the game. There's this little place. They do, great hot Italian sandwiches in Lindsay or something. I don't know where it was, but that was the perk about, Louis being all over the province all the time. Eh, Lou?
Yeah, well, those days being like when I was, my early days or most of my time with the St. Michael's Majors organization, Mississauga, I was the head scout. So after Jack Ferguson, when I first came out to St. Mike's, he was our head scout, and then he was an elderly gentleman, and then he passed on the reins to me. Jack, God bless her. So do you know Jack Rain? Do you know who he is?
No.
I'm sure you probably know who he is if you've seen him.
Yeah.
He's an old, so you've seen him. Well, the first pick overall award
goes to is that named
Jack
after
Ferguson Award, named after him. And
I
had the fortune, and I'm sure if you've seen him.
Yeah, 100%. Now that you said
that for sure.
100%. 100%.
So when I was a head scout, I had a little bit more of a territory. I had to go across the province, as Britt said. Like I'm going to Ottawa once a month. I'm driving down to Windsor. I'm going to the U.S. once a month. So, U.S., New York, I've been Chicago. When I was a head scout, I put a lot of miles in the car, and I spent a lot of nights in hotels on the weekends and a lot of nights. There are nights where I used to drive right after school to Detroit, to CompuWare Arena, watch the development team play, and then come all the way back home.
Wow.
And be home at 1 a.m, get up and go to work the next morning.
There is no other sport like hockey.
And so he would know the best place to eat.
Yes, and then because like I said, sometimes and then knowing the places and asking the local guys from those clubs, hey, where's a good place to eat? No problem. They're directing you always. Every single town I went to always had a good spot to eat. I can attest wherever it is, you know what? And I pride myself. I love going to the old arenas in the small towns. There's just something about going there. And I know if I'm going to a rink for the first time, I try to go early just to walk around the arena, just to see the old pictures, to see what NHLers played on that rink and all that. So, I went up, even I had one trip, like even Northern Ontario. I went to Timmins one time. Sudbury thousands of times, or not thousands of times literally, but many times. Sault Ste. Marie a couple of times. The only Northern Ontario rink or city I've never been to is Thunder Bay. That's the only, because they always come down here to play. There was no need for them to go up there to watch them because they're in all the major tournaments. But almost every town in the province, even in Eastern Ontario, in the Ottawa area, Smith Falls, Brockville, Pembroke, all those little towns, I've always went into them. So there's many arenas that I've been to, and there's many nights that, cold nights, you got to do it. You don't want to do it, but it was not only was difficult, but it was enjoyable. I enjoyed those days.
And you know what? It's kind of funny too. Like it's not just he knew all the great places to eat, which he does, but like you said about your draft year going to Belleville, the biggest arena. His way of just knowing the arenas. When we would go out, like I said, to the boonies and going to places where, we've never played before. He's been there before. And he kind of already would build sort of a strategy based on that arena. It's a big ice surface. The boys are going to need to, get pucks down low and keep them pinned down there or something. So not only was it just food, but his knowledge of which arena and this and that.
I now know the success to your program is Mr. Vidge right here with all the pre-scouting.
Well, what?
A man prepared is going to win the game.
So, like I said, he's one of the great hockey minds, and luckily I get to be side by side and learn from Vidge. But he tends to run our defense a lot, and our defense and our penalty kill and TC, Tom Carnevaley, kind of deals with the forwards. But in Richmond Hill, hey, Lou, we got
low-scoring team you guys must have, huh?
No, we had the 2 back-to-back years with the lowest GAA. Our goalies got the awards for, least amount of goals against, So having a guy like Lou on the bench, running the D and all that
the
stuff.
The buck stops here, the puck stops here. Louis Vigilanti.
That's it.
That's going to be your new bumper sticker.
But, let's get back into kind of the scouting world for a bit, before we kind of wrap things up a bit. I wanted to ask you, we had Adam Dennis on the show a couple episodes
Adam Dennis was your goalie, wasn't he, Ray?
He was my goalie
and
for the Canadians, for the
Marlies.
Flyers,
was he
and
not
the Marlies. He came with, Canadians, Flyers, Marlies, Adam Dennis.
And we drafted, the funny thing is, that draft, we were ready to take a goalie, and we were looking at Adam first, and I can't remember who picked before us. I think it was London that took him.
Yeah.
Or Kitchener, I don't know. London took him, and then we just took your other goalie, Kyle Zoon. Remember Kyle Zoon?
I remember Kyle Zoon.
Wow.
Yeah, because we had to take a goalie. We wanted to take a goalie on the 85 draft. I'm trying to think. We took a goalie every year. Can't remember who our goalie was that year. We had 2 good goalies. We didn't take a goalie high. So we wanted to take a goalie because we had 2 good younger goalies.
Was Beckford Sue with you guys in Guelph?
No. Beckford Sue, he played. Where did he play?
He played for you guys in Guelph, though.
No. I was with Mississauga then.
That's right.
St. Mike's, not Mississauga. St. Mike's Major.
That's right.
So at the time when I first started, early in my career there, we had really bad goalies. Then we picked. Then by accident, it happens. We took a guy in the European draft. The same year, we had a rookie goalie named Andy Kyoto. And then our goalie was Peter Budaj.
That's right.
Both these guys played. These guys played, and these guys came in. The year
you guys beat us.
Yes,
my
Game
second
7.
year,
Remember that?
Game 7.
Remember Game 7? What a series that was! It was a home series.
Home series.
We had guys.
Oh my God! You were on that. You were with that St. Mike's.
Yeah.
We had was guys my coming out party. I was a point a game player of that series.
You guys, that's when you picked up Spezza the year, didn't you?
No, Spezza was the year before. This is the year after. This is with McCormick.
Yes.
Cody McCormick, Paymont, Silverstone.
Wellwood?
No, Wellwood wasn't there.
No. He was in '83, so he was.
83.
Yeah.
He was with Windsor. Anyways, but he got traded to Windsor. But I'm just saying, the funny thing is, we couldn't skate in your rink, and you guys had trouble in our rink. It was a very funny series.
Because you're small little freaking rink, man.
See?
Yeah.
Your fans were on top of us. The dressing room.
Insane.
There was Britain. It was the craziest series, man. It was the craziest series.
It was.
Oh, man. I could go right back to that. God.
It was an amazing series. And that year, every year we won. We lost 4 straight years in the conference final. Twice to Ottawa, once to Barrie, and I think once to London. I don't know, not to London, to who beat us that year? I think Sudbury might have beat us. Anyways, long story short.
Sudbury did with Jansewski on D.
Yeah. So anyways, what were we talking about? We were talking about you as your goalie. Yeah, we were talking about the draft.
Dennis,
that year.
Dennis. Yeah.
And we took Kyle Zoon, his other goalkeeper from minor midget, because they took Adam Dennis, and we were just like, okay, well, who do we take now? Let's just take his partner. So that happens too. Sometimes you run out of positional players or somebody you want to take. Yeah. But anyways, Britt, back to your question.
Yeah, my question was, so we asked him a question about player comparisons, because he's now the GM of the North Bay Battalions.
Yes.
And they had the first overall pick. And, we asked him, what do you guys, do player comparisons? And he had a pretty, cool answer. He kind of said that instead of us comparing who we think they play like, we asked the player who they compared themselves to and why. But, as a scout, are you big on player comparisons? Well, that number 19 from St. Mike's, he plays like this and that. Or,
yeah, you try to always... that's just by human nature. I think there's a guy you watch, and all of a sudden he reminds you of a player, that played 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or even on your present team now. So you compare him to the guys, and that's part of scouting, and it gives you an idea. You know, if you remember watching a kid at that age, and he reminds you of somebody from before that age, it's pretty good comparison. You have at least you have a playing field, something to gauge them by, right? So that is a big thing in scouting. You're always comparing kids and saying, well, this guy reminds me of this guy, or this guy I think is going to be like this guy, so on and so forth. So comparison you draw back on your previous experiences, right or wrong. And you can say, well, yeah, we don't want this guy here like Rain because he couldn't skate. We don't want to take him in the first round. Or you remember Rain. Rain was a poor skater, but he still scored at this level. So we can't overlook that. We can't, because he always has something. What I kind of look at, if you want to look at a player, what is his separation skill? What does he do that makes him different from the rest? Could be skating, could be the fact that he's able to score, playmaking, toughness, work ethic. Like we take a comparison of Hyman for the Leafs. His separation skill is not his puck handling, it's not his goal scoring, it's his ability to work hard. That's his work ethic. That separates him from anybody on that team. And more or less, you tell me he's not the top 5 hardest workers in the league. That's why he is where he is. That's the separation skill he has on everybody else. Now, the elite guys like McDavid, Crosby, I think they have 3 or 4 separation skills that make them so much better and that's why they're so great. But every guy you look at, why are you taking him ahead of that guy? What is his separation skill? What does he do better than the other guy that you want him? That's how I kind of use an evaluation tool when we talk about comparing players. Who do you want to take, this guy or that guy? So in Rain's defense or whatever, what separated us taking Ryan Rohrbeck was such a great skater. He was so smooth. Yep. He played 200 feet. That was his separation skill that put him ahead above other guys. So just a comparison back when he asked me that question, why did you not take me? Yeah. So not that he was a terrible skater, but that Ryan had a separation skill, and we had him high enough on our list where we really liked him. So that kind of goes to my next question is, you took, besides taking Ryan over Rain Carnegie, is there any players that you could, recall that maybe made the show now that you kind of looked at them and you're like, nah, he doesn't fit my description, and you kind of passed on him, but then you're almost wrong about passing on him? And then was there any players that you were bang on? Can you name a few guys that come off the top of your head that you were wrong about, but also guys that you're very right about? Yeah, I'm sure even Rain can attest to that. In his playing experience, there are probably guys that Rain played with that you would think in 1,000 years this guy would never play in the NHL. Like, you're just shocked for some reason. Then there's guys that I can't believe he's not playing the NHL for whatever reason. So I can tell you some guys too who I never thought, and just watching Hyman, I would never think this guy would be in the NHL. You know what I mean? Like, that's one guy who I never really thought much of as far as a hockey player, not meaning in a derogatory way. I didn't ever think he'd even be a good OHL player just because of his lack of skill. But again, some kids develop at a later age. They get bigger, they get stronger. I give you a guy like Alex Formington. You guys familiar with him? So, for instance, Alex Formington in his draft year was 5'6". He's 6'3", 6'4". Wow. So unless you know that he's going to grow, or you have some inkling that's going to happen, or Brent Burns too. But I always liked Brent Burns. I didn't think Brent Burns was the best forward. Yes. Before contact, this kid came from Barrie. Okay, little kid. We used to call him Bucky. Used to have the bandana on underneath his helmet. He would skate down the ice with the puck on his stick. One of the top fours, just like, where'd this kid come from? Then contact came into play. He was still, he didn't hit his growth spurt. I think he went back to the OMHA. And then the next time I saw him, he was 6'7". I was just like, whoa. I saw him. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Right? So that's a great thing. But I always thought Brent Burns had some potential. I really liked him. He was amazing. Great teammate. Outside of Anthony Stewart, Yeah, Jeff Platt was a great little hockey player.
Jeff Platt was my arch nemesis.
His arch nemesis.
My arch nemesis.
Yeah, but he was a great player.
Oh man, he can.
And then my next guy that I kind of liked on that team, and then remember, you're going to think of another guy too. They had Brett Burns and one of the McGinn brothers.
They had one of the McGinn brothers?
Yes, on that team. There was a McGinn on that team too. The oldest of the McGinns.
Wow.
Was on that team too. He had the shortest career of all those kids. Like there's 3 McGinn brothers.
Yep.
He was there. He kicked around, the mine, but he played some NHL games.
Yep.
But Brett Burns, I would never tell you that he'd be a superstar, but I had time for him. I really liked him.
Yep.
And all that. A guy a kid that I really didn't think that's playing the NHL or played some games was I forget I know his last name. I forget his first name. I'm thinking it's Chris Terry. But is it Chris Terry?
Is he on
Terry
Anaheim? Anaheim?
No.
No,
There's
not
another
that.
Terry that played for Carolina a bit.
Yeah.
Played for Carolina.
Yes.
He played in Plymouth.
Okay, yeah.
That's the one guy I never really thought that, I'd say I didn't really think he would amount to much. I remember Patrick Kane. When he was in his draft year minor midget, he was an 88. Okay, so Rain would have been around your time too. He was 5'5", 129 pounds. Okay, and I remember arguing with the GM and St. Mike's, like, not that we would have taken him, but I said, guys, but this guy's the best player in this age group, skill-wise. But they're saying, no, he's too small. But then, if you know a little bit of him, he was not a student. He wasn't going to school. You did your homework. He was coming to the OHL after he was done in the development program. So London, and obviously the Hunters have shown that they kind of have an idea what they're doing. And they've got a good track record. Mark went and took him, and the next step was getting him to the OHL. And you go from there. That shows you. But a lot of guys, the same thing with Mitch Marner. A lot of guys did not think Mitch was going to be a good player.
Well, you just named my 2 favorite players right now. My son's 2 favorite players.
So for me, and I don't know if I ever told you, Brent, I always liked Mitch. I always thought, outside of Connor McDavid, he was the next best player in this age group.
Yeah.
And I knew that he'd be, a good NHLer. That I don't really hide the fact. And there's been a lot of guys over the years that I've drafted that have played in the National Hockey League. There's guys that have never panned out, who've been high picks. There's guys that I've coached to that, went a long way. But there's a few, I'm sure I can come across some guys that the more recent guys are the guys, like Ben Scheroth. I remember Ben Scheroth. I had no time for him. This guy's terrible, man. Like, look at the things he does. But you know what? And all credit to Ben, he found a way to play. Like, but you need his type of player, right? You need a big guy that's a little bit rugged, that's going to give it to guys, that just moves pucks up ice. He's an ugly player.
I like his feet. He has some decent feet.
But a big guy, he's not overly skilled. But if you watched him in minor hockey, like, he's one of those guys who played, like, thought he was an offensive defenseman and just be taking a puck up the ice and with his head down, running into the end boards and losing the puck. So he just turned you off as a player. As a scout, oh man, you gotta watch this guy again. You know what I mean? So sometimes some kids, they're not, you like chocolate, I like vanilla.
Isn't that also the coach's job? Like, to your point, like, part of the coach's job is to teach the kids how to play hockey.
Yes.
Like teaching our defensemen when to make the rush, when to dump the puck in, when to headman the puck, when to glass and whatever it is. Like, isn't that part of the development? It doesn't stop after Tyke, right? Like, it doesn't change once you go from minor hockey to junior, or does it?
No, it's you're totally correct. Now, as you know, guys, like any walks of life, you're going to go through hockey with good coaches, good development. So you're right. Maybe somewhere along the line, someone taught him how to play. Or he probably woke up and said, well, if I'm going to play at this league, at this level, I got to change my game. And I think that's where a lot of high-end juniors, they can't adapt to the NHL game because they're not willing to make the change in their games to make them successful and be able to play at that level. Because a top 6 guy, let's be honest, let's look at the Pittsburgh Penguins. Anybody coming into the Pittsburgh Penguins saying, I don't care where you get drafted, you're not playing ahead of Sidney Crosby. You're not going to be a number 2 center. If you want to be a Pittsburgh Penguin, you scored 60 goals in junior hockey, you better learn how to check. You're never gonna play ahead of Sid. You're never gonna play ahead of Malkin. So either you get traded to a different organization. That's what happens at that level. Or you adapt. If you want to play in the league, I'm gonna have to learn how to block penalties, kill penalties. Block shots, be a defensive, different type of play. You have to be able to be. And those are the kids that are going to be successful. Are the ones that are able to do that at a younger age, able to play up and down your lineup and take into account those aspects about being versatile players and having a little bit more skill set in your repertoire. Like, you guys are coaches. You're going to go to a kid. You guys are young coaches. I need you to play left wing. He's going to look at me. Well, I don't play left wing. I play center.
We talked about that. Yeah.
What are you going to say to the kid? Okay. Like, I remember as a coach, and you got to deal with parents and, being experienced, you talk to the parents, call you, forwards, to me, you have to be able to play all positions. You have to be versatile, or else you can't play. And the more you teach them at a young age, the better off they are. So when the parents come to you, especially in minor hockey, and they say, my son is a centerman, then they got no shot, those kids. Because, you know what? They just say, you know what? Then you go to those kids, too. You ask him, I need you to play right wing. Oh, I can't play right wing. Well, what are you going to do? You just go to the next guy. Get out there. Go play right wing. So it's going to happen, right? So, and the same thing happens at that level, Wayne. Like you got to, the coach comes and says, buddy, I need you to play 4th line left wing. You're off wing. You're going to say, no, I'm not going to do it.
I would have played goalie.
Yeah, think about it. But there are guys that don't understand that concept where you have to be a versatile player. You have to be able to change your role, your game,
and I just
be successful.
Just had that conversation, Louis, with one of the families that I work with. A kid going through the process in this draft year, 06 kid, has to play center. And I try to explain, listen, that's fine. You keep on telling me that you're a centerman, but you want that extra ice time. You want to showcase your son. And if I need a left winger and you're not my best face-off guy, you're a centerman, but you're not my best face-off guy. 4th line centerman's our best face-off guy. He's taking the face-off the last 2 minutes of the game, but I still need that left winger. So why are we so fixated on the centerman when I could use you at all these extra times to get on the ice?
And what's funny? I could talk about this because Louis talking about being versatile. There's been times, obviously, we've had kids in the past who, I don't play this wing or I'm a centerman. But there was this one game where I think it was our D or our forwards, one of the groups couldn't play the game that day. They were just so bad that Louis on the bench mid-game was like, okay, all the D today, you're playing forward because these guys are doing nothing up there. And he literally took all the D and they were playing shifts and, a couple forwards were going out there. But it was just, he was like, I don't care if you've never played right wing before. Today, you're going to do it because you're not doing, you're not playing D, so you might as well try right wing out, buddy. It's pretty, he has his unique ways, but it's a lesson at the end of the day,
Don't the parents want to wring your neck when you have those teachable lessons?
To the parents.
Like, what? That's like I said, the biggest problem in minor hockey is the parents. That. If they just sat back, like this COVID now is the best thing for hockey. There's no parents allowed in the rink.
Yes.
Think about it. You go to the rink, how quiet it is. Nobody's yelling. Nobody's screaming. The kids are having so much fun. They're not looking up in the stands at their parents, telling them what to do. It's the best thing about COVID. No parents.
And I'm so guilty of that too. My son's always, prior to COVID, he's always looking over in the stands and just like, stop, giving him the hand signals. Yeah. Like, get going, all this stuff. And then sometimes I'm just like, stop looking, like, stop, focus on the ice, stop looking over here. But he's so used to me, let's go, it's.
No, as you guys as coaches are going to have those moments where nothing's going right during the game. Nope. And you know what? You just might as well just try something different. Just, like Britt said, we moved all the forwards up front Because none of these guys can play in the back. You might as well put them up front. Let's put some of these guys in the back, right? They're so bad. So bad. Everybody has their bad games, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, Lou, I know you're not on social media or anything. And
Yeah, I don't go on social
it's kind of funny, too. So this whole show, part of the game, I had this idea. I wanted to do a podcast. And
Yes.
it actually derived from you, because he's just such a hockey personality. And, I get the pleasure every night after a game or during the game. And sometimes I'm a fan. I'm just watching kind of Louis do his thing. And, I'm just in awe of it. And I'm just taking it all in. So I had this idea of a podcast. And, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a podcast. We're going to talk minor hockey. And we're going to get Lui Vigilanti as one host. And we're going to do Joe Shoes as the other. And you guys are going to kind of go back and forth and just tell war stories and hockey stories. Obviously, that didn't pan out. And now it's Rain and I kind of,
That's good.
Yeah, second choice over here. Yeah, don't worry.
No, you guys have been doing a good job.
Yeah, but
You guys
what
have
I was
done a
going
great
to
job.
get at is that, methods like, we talked about putting all the forwards and stuff. There's also, Louis got this kind of infectious personality. He walks into a rink, everybody kind of, Louis, I know Louis, and, they all hover around Louis. You just want to be
That's because
around.
they're all afraid that Louis is going to tell them what it is. They're like, hey,
exactly.
Louis, don't shoot. Hands up. Hey, how you doing, Louis? You good?
Well, and exactly. He's a respected man, and he didn't demand it. He earned it. But, there's this funny story. I think we were playing in Markham one night. We're on the bench with the Richmond Hill Coyotes. And Louis has this one saying, when things aren't going right and a player's just making a lot of mistakes on the ice, he has this one thing, and it just comes out all the time. It's loud. It's heard around arenas all over the province. It's, what are you doing? And he just gives it to a guy on the ice. And we were playing in Markham. I don't know if you remember this, Lou, but a ref, so he hears Louis scream, what are you doing? A ref skates over. He goes, hey, are you Lui Vigilanti? And then Louis like, yeah. He goes, well, I'm so-and-so, and, I played for you back this time when you were a coach, and as soon as you screamed, what are you doing? I had to come over because I won't forget that.
Oh,
line.
that's right. A Markham, the guy came over, yeah.
The ref, I don't know if you remember
That's
his
right.
name.
Yeah. We were in the Markham rink, the newer rink in Markham there, Angus Glenn, and he came over. And I coached against him when he was a player.
Okay,
and he
that's what
remembers
it
me
was.
yelling at the guys. What are you doing?
Yeah. So we actually, that was an amazing. And then Tom and I look at Louis. We're like, hey, hopefully we get some calls now. You know what I mean? Because we're in Markham. We don't get too many calls. So I hope you were good to that guy, Louis. But that's just that's kind of his personality and who he is, and it's not changing, which we don't want it to change because it's great, and it's something that we could all learn from. Just that rawness, that honesty and stuff. But also, so we did a post, and we kind of want to start doing a segment on the show called "What Are You Doing?" And it's going to be the Lui Vigilanti. So we're going to show like a misplay or something, and we're going to have a button. So every time the guy does a misplay, we're going to hit "What are you doing?" So we actually did a post on our Instagram. The guy was on a breakaway. I forget who it was. I think it was Blake Como. Blake Como was on a breakaway, and he turned back on the breakaway.
He was on the 2-on-0.
2-on-0. And he turned back to drop the puck or pass the puck, and it went to the other team. And, we put the hashtag, what are you doing, right? So even you ask anybody who's played with Louis, just like the ref who played against Louis, they know, what are you doing is, that's Louis, right?
Do you have it trademarked? Do you have that slogan trademarked?
No, I should.
Copyrighted?
Yeah, I should. What are you doing?
Sell some merchandise.
Oh, man. But, we're going to, I guess, wrap it up. If, Louis, HDG, your hockey program. Is there any way
Yes.
to get a hold of you, or to get some players to skate with you, or are you still
Unfortunately,
using the phone book?
Yeah, the Rolodex. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a website. It's just people who I know, and I started this hockey school development group, whatever. I have a few guys that used to help me out on the ice. Guys like Joe Garaffa, these guys I grew up with when their kids were young kids, they always said, well, who can I take my kid to? Who can I go to and all that? So all these guys who I grew up with when I was a kid, and I know through high school, university, so I said, well, I might as well just do something myself. Come skate with me. I'm pretty sure with my knowledge and experience, I'm better than half the guys out there, and I'm not going to lie to you. At least you know you're coming to somebody who's actually going to take an interest in your kid. And so I just started this hockey program, let's call it. Yeah. And that's been going on for about, I would say, almost 20 years now. I don't really have a website. I just go by word of mouth. And like I said, this is something I do as a passion. Yeah. On the side, because we all love hockey. That's why we're here today. And it's not my livelihood, but I've been very successful at it. And I've been lucky to meet a lot of good people. And again, here today, we have some good people here. I got to meet Rain for the first time, even watching him play 20 years ago. That's play at Etobicoke, Canland 20 years ago, pop up and down the ice, and I get to.
He must have watched a different game.
Rain, he gave you your scouting report. Anybody you want to ask him about that maybe he still remembers, or do you want to do
Mike Tuomi.
Mike Tuomi, was he not a goalie?
No. Okay. No. Doesn't know Mike Tuomi. Rich Malage.
Yeah, the right-handed forward. He played from. Who did he play for? He was from the Niagara area. He played Junior B that year or something like that.
Yeah.
He was a right-handed forward. I remember from the St. Catharines or Fort Erie, something like that. Yeah, he was a pretty good player. I remember him up and down. Who did he get drafted by?
I forget. Not Belleville. Not
I can't remember. Yeah, he didn't play
Maybe
Maybe. I don't remember.
Matt Christie.
Yeah, Matt Christie. What a disappointment, hey? Well, think about how good he was, and he never. That's worse. Okay, and if we have a little bit more time here. Yeah, go for it. Just to talk about options and the options that kids have today. Yeah. And the paths they take to go on. I personally believe if Matt Christie came to the OHL, he would have played. His career would have been further ahead. You know what I mean? Than going to the school route, because that's 20 years ago. Nowadays, it's a little bit different, where the high-end kids have a better opportunity of going to school, and you see a lot more high-end Canadian kids, especially here in the GTA. You're going to get one out of every age class going to the U.S. and doing very well. Back in the day, 20 years ago, it wasn't the case for some reason. And even today, young parents have a choice, or the kids have a choice, or want to make a choice. What path do we go to? What path should we be taking? Should we go to the U.S. college? And should we go to the OHL? Now, in the end, it comes down to the type of player you are. And more importantly, is getting yourself with the most information and educating yourself by both paths. Another option, or another factor that's going to weigh in is finances. Okay, what resources do you have? So I'm not going to name the player, but I'm just going to give you the scenario of this kid. Wasn't drafted to the OHL, but was good enough to get drafted. And then there's a draft year. Maybe it wasn't the player that he was a couple of years later, but he had an option now. Coming to the OHL at 18 years old. Now, if just so maybe the viewers understand, maybe Rainey, it's even changed when you were a player. The OHL gives you a school package, an education package. Usually, depending on where you get drafted, what round, depends on the amount of dollars that are allocated. But for any ordinary player, you're going to get 1 year tuition and books at any OHL, at any university closest to the hometown that you live in. Okay? Now, if you have a good agent/advisor, he may be able to negotiate a better package than just getting a 1-for-1. So usually your first round packages, they get tuition, book, and board. And then what else comes upon with that? So it's called a gold package. Every team has, they're called full rides. So people get misconstrued when they hear full rides and what that means. When you're going to a U.S. college, a full ride's a little bit different than a full ride in a Canadian university as far as monetary values. U.S. colleges, because you're a foreign student, so they get this illusion, oh, we're going to get a $200,000, $250,000 scholarship going to play U.S. college. Well, yeah, that's that much because that's what the institution charges you as a foreign student because you're not a U.S. citizen and the prices go up. Then your room and board and everything else on top of that, it adds up. So they get kind of thrown off with these number values. Whereas getting a year education in the OHL for every year you play in could be equivalent to a 1 year school package as it is comparable to the U.S. So that's a whole different topic in itself. But Matt Christie, going back to him, regardless, he chose that path. Maybe wanted to be an educator. Maybe his parents wanted to rely on maybe making sure he gets an education. But I think that path hurt his hockey development. That's my thing. And we can get into a whole debate about college US. But every
Joe Shoes touched on it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every kid is different. And every kid has a different path in hockey. If you're physically ready and you're a more mature individual than the OHL and you have a better pro upside, then the OHL is a better path for you because you're going to become a pro hockey player a lot further and a lot faster and play with the higher competition. Okay? Whereas if you're a middle round player, depending how good you are, because believe it or not, it's easier nowadays to get an education package fully paid in the OHL than get a full ride in U.S. college. If you're not an elite player, it's going to cost you money to go to U.S. college. Division I, Division III, they're not all full rides, year per year. And if you're not a blue chip prospect, you're not going to get that opportunity as you would. So, in my opinion, nowadays, with the way things are and the way the growth of U.S. hockey, and there's so many better, let's make big things a fact. U.S. hockey is a lot more developing better players than we are in Canada, just because of the numbers, right? The more people playing hockey in the U.S. than there is in Canada.
For sure.
And then you're just going to get better players.
And they're stealing the Canada way, sort of, that rough and tumble and skill.
There's a lot of transplanted Canadians who finish their careers and end up playing in U.S. cities and develop their families. I give you one thing. The St. Louis minor hockey program was developed by guys like Al McInnes, Jeff Brown, the Kachucks, okay? And the Cavallini brothers were down there. They started the St. Louis minor hockey program. A lot of kids are coming out of St. Louis, and they're coached by their dads, so to speak, who are ex-pros, who played, some of them Hall of Famers. Like, who better than have a coach run a program like that? So that's happening all over the U.S. now, right? It's happening now. The Cavallini brothers transformed to Chicago. The Chicago Mission program, if you went through all the Chicago-born players that are in the NHL, 90% of the Chicago-born players that are playing the NHL nowadays come out of the Chicago Mission program. They're like the Toronto Marlies and the Junior Canadians here in Illinois hockey, or even USA hockey, right? Detroit has the same bigs. Yeah, Toronto Young Nationals. Not really Ray nowadays, but I wish you the best. But understanding that players and the choices that you have is a big step in how far you go in hockey. It's a lot more complicated today because there's so many different options than it was when Brain was playing 20 years ago. For sure. There was more, okay, we're going to the OHL, and that's it. Yeah. Very few kids went to U.S. college. But now the shift has gone sideways where a lot of kids are taking that option for whatever reason, and some people are opting out of the elite guys are opting out of the U.S. Of OHL hockey or CHL hockey and going to that path and going U.S. college route. So it all depends on the type of player you are and what you are, and
Definitely.
what your aspirations are in the end.
For sure.
So back to Matt Christie, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
he's a guy that I thought never reached his full
Because he
Potential.
because he chose kind of that path. That's
I think that
pretty.
path kind of
Yeah. Well, a lot of good stuff there, man. Louis, we're going to wrap it up, but thank you so much for being on the show and giving us, sharing your insight. Lucky for me, I get to see it all the time when we're coaching together, but for our audience and, for Rain, first time hearing you speak and stuff and meeting you, he got to, I'm sure, get some educated stuff out of this stuff. But
I
thanks
can't wait to show you my skating next time I see you on the ice.
Well, I'm sure you can skate better than me, so I'll be okay.
And disclaimer: any of those guys who that Louis, gave their scouting report, if they feel differently, come on the show and refute it.
Louis senile anyway, he doesn't know what he's talking about, so it's all good.
Hey, only back-to-back GAA awards. I think he still got it. You know what I mean?
Hey, the buck stops here and so does the puck. That's his slogan, right? On the bumper sticker.
Exactly.
But thanks for being on the show, Louis. We're gonna go to penalty or part of the game. You're gonna join us for that, right? So.
Yes, I am.
All right, so we're gonna go to penalty
Or part of the game.
penalty or part of the game. All right, so today's, penalty or part of the game is something, kind of Louis and I dealt with as coaches in Richmond Hill. So today's topic for penalty part of the game is Hockey Canada's community residence rule. So we're talking, the closed borders, players, from a certain part of the city can't go and play, if you live in Oakville, you can't come to the G. If you live in Richmond Hill, you can't come to Toronto or go to Oakville to play. I just kind of want to pick your guys' brain about it because, as a coach in Richmond Hill, we kind of faced that, we had a small player pool to choose from. And, a lot of the times, we might have not gotten the best player, or somebody that wanted to play with us couldn't play with us because they were they lived in Barrie or somewhere else. But it's kind of an interesting topic. Do you guys feel that having to play for your community where you live? Without, if you got to sign a waiver and a release form to get out of there. So if they don't want you, you can go play somewhere else. But do you guys feel like that's part of the game, or should we open the borders and let the kids play anywhere they want? Rain, we kind of always start with you, so give us your insight. What do you think? Penalty part of the game, open borders, closed borders.
I think that it's unfortunately a part of the game, so I'm going to say that it's a penalty. I think that we should have, the ability to play wherever we want to play. It would make the programs that are being run by, the individual centers that much more competitive, because it will force them to really do their due diligence to make sure they're getting the right coaches in there, the right support staff in there to put their best product on the ice so they don't have to worry about losing the community that's around them. If they're the best program available, then the community should have nothing to worry about. But if they're not the best program, and there's a program that's better for my kids, I have two of them, my son's in hockey right now, I don't want to be stuck with the program in my center if there's a program that's out there that everybody knows is better, that wants my son to play on that team. That's where I think he should go. If I'm willing to make that commitment to drive him to Barrie because I live in North Oshawa, then that should be my prerogative instead of having to play. I'm not saying that Oshawa is not a great program. My son's a part of that program right now. So shout out to Oshawa Minor Hockey Association. But it just hypothetically, if we wanted to go someplace else, I just think that that should be our prerogative. And also being a coach, I don't want, on the flip side, anybody that doesn't want to be a part of my program, I don't want to hold them hostage. I want people that want to be a part of my program to be a part of the program, because that's when I think we can learn from each other and develop those key attributes that are going to help us become successful. So I just think that having the borders right now, it stymies progress, it stymies development, and I don't think it's good for the game. I think we get a better product being able to compete with, our cousins south of the border that have those programs that Louis was talking about because of the sheer mass of them. I just think that if we just open the borders, it would make everybody invest in the programs that they have within their communities, and that's how you're going to get the best product and the best development for our athletes, period.
So you kind of lost me for a second. Penalty or part of the game?
It's a penalty that there's borders right now, but it's a part of the game.
Yeah, so you're kind of one of those on the fence things.
I'm not on the fence. I want it like it's a penalty. Get rid of the borders. Let us go.
Okay. All right. So you know what? In saying that, unfortunately, we're going to agree on this one. Usually, Louis, Ray, and I almost every episode disagree, but today we actually agree. I think it's a penalty as well. You shouldn't be stuck to a program just because that's where you live. If you don't mind the hour and a half drive to somewhere else to play for a different program that you feel comfortable with, that you might like the coaching staff there or the program that they're running, it should be your prerogative to do so. Kind of what Rain was touching on. And Rain, you kind of live in Oshawa, so
I actually do.
Well, yeah, sorry, you live in Oshawa, but now put it this way. So, we've had this, Louis, I don't know if you remember, a player came from Barrie to one of our tryouts when we were in Richmond Hill. I think he had almost 7 release forms. He had to get signed just to get on the ice with us and try out for us. And luckily, I think he was even late a bit. We saw him for like maybe half an hour, half the tryout. We actually ended up taking the kid on our team. But, all it took was maybe along that way, the 6th community that he went to said, no, we want to see you one more time. And that could have hindered his chance at playing for our team. And I just don't think that's right, His community didn't want him, but now he couldn't just go elsewhere. He had to pass through the different communities just to play for our team, and he had to get 6 or 7 waivers signed, and I think that's just ludicrous. So, we agree on something, Rain, finally. I think it's a penalty. Rain thinks it's a penalty. Let's see what Louis, as a scout, as a coach, as, player development, what do you think?
Godfather of hockey.
Godfather of hockey.
I'm gonna disagree with you guys on principle, not on the way you guys have put on good arguments why, but I'm just gonna say it's part of the game, and this is my just being going back old school mentality is it's always nice to see a kid grow up and play in the community where he was born in. That's my train of thought. Where now, and Rain brought up a good point. That would force those homegrown little centers to have good coaching, to run good programs in order to keep them there. Now, some programs do a good job doing that, and some programs don't. I'm under the adage that, as a scouting perspective, you don't really need to come to the GTHL to be noticed. Mm-hmm. If you're good enough, someone's going to recognize who you are, and someone's going to find you if you're good enough. Now, coming to the GTHL and flocking over in your mind image, which a lot of kids do, now let's think about all the opportunities that kids are losing who live in the city. Because all these kids are coming, these transplanted players want to come play in the G, and now you're bumping down guys to lower teams and lower things. So that's the beauty of that rule and having it. And I don't agree with that. When it comes, I think that kids should be allowed to go play wherever they want. But I'm going to take devil's advocate and go against you guys, saying, think how much when it goes for a long way to having that one team, having that one superstar, Central Ontario Wolves, the North Central Predators, the Quinte Red Devils, because of their remoteness of where they are, no one's going to really leave, and they have good programs because they draw from a bigger area.
Brad Richardson.
Yes, Brad Richardson, your age group. That's actually who I wanted to take ahead of Rohrbeck. Brad Richardson. Go back. He's the one guy I thought might slip to us. Brad Richardson. That's who I wanted instead of Rohrbeck. but he went earlier. But saying that, I believe that kids, not that they should stay, they should be held. But I like the home and like the old school hockey mentality where keeping the kids in their community. But, you have to have the good programs to sustain those kids and keep them there. Mm-hmm. If you have poor coaching, and this is where the shift from a parent coach goes to a paid coach or someone with some type of pedigree and some hockey knowledge, some experience to coach and keep those guys there. Because, as you guys probably know, a lot of those small towns have parent coaches as volunteers, even up to the minor midget level. And, obviously you're not going to get much. And then you run into the politics of small town hockey, where, as Britt said, some kids are not wanted for whatever reason. They have to go to other areas to play, and they got to go through all that process of the waivers. My adage is, if you get cut from a team or that team doesn't want you, you should be able to be a free agent and go wherever you want to play.
That's a good point.
But that's the only thing I would change.
Yeah.
If you're an Oshawa coach, Rain, and you cut my son, I shouldn't have to go through. If I want to go play now in
Ajax,
I shouldn't have to go to 7 different skates to get all the releases.
Right.
You were, and it's you don't want my son, whatever reason, not good enough, doesn't fit into your program. Hey, that's fine. Yep. But he should not have to be held hostage by every single team and go through all the front.
I think that's a great adjustment they could probably make.
I don't agree with the star player leaving because he thinks he has better opportunity to go somewhere else and play. I don't agree with that philosophy.
True.
Because that team is good because he's on it. And if he's a great player, he's going to make everybody else better. So I don't agree with those guys, those families leaving because they think of a better opportunity. And those guys should have a rough time. But I agree with the fact that you're saying if somebody's not wanted by their home center, they should be able to free and go wherever they want without being held up by 7 different releases and going through all these different areas. That's what I have an issue with.
Well, there you have it. That's pretty insightful. That's I think a great adjustment that maybe they should start looking into if they haven't already. Because, like I said, that was just ridiculous. And if that guy got held up on that last, center that that community center or the team that, said, sorry, we're not going to release you yet. We want to see you one more time. He wouldn't have played for us. And, we had a good season with him. And so, yeah, I totally agree with that. And, that was great. That's what we have for today. Thanks again, Louis. I'm sure you're going to join us again. We're going to have to get you.
I have to.
You're gonna
be a regular
contributor. I think you're gonna have to, get you and Joe Shoemaker at the same time. Just before we go, though, there's one more scouting report I wanted to ask you about. His name is someone that you've mentored this whole time in the hockey world. His name's Tom Carnevaley. What is his scouting report?
Okay.
Before you go, make it short.
Guys,
make it short. Don't go too crazy.
Tom was very skilled, but very temperamental as a hockey player. And again, Tom played in his midget. Back then was a midget draft. He played on a bad team, so he was the best player on a bad team, and got drafted, I believe, in the later rounds due to his skill. But Tom had issues off the ice. That was his biggest roadblock to getting to his full potential.
That's right.
And he had skill. Yeah. He just, as you know, he couldn't see.
Yeah.
So he'd be doing things. He said, "Well, what's this guy doing? Who's he passing to?"
The worst eyes.
Nobody there. He couldn't see. But and he was an individual. He made because he couldn't.
I thought you said he had skill, and now you're saying he can't see.
Well, yeah, he had skills, but he couldn't see what was going on in the ice.
He has bad eyes, legitimately. His eyes are very bad.
See.
Yeah,
Vision,
his vision. It's not like the vision of the game. It's his eyes.
He can't see. I didn't see. He had bad eyesight. He needed glasses when he was a kid because he was too hard-headed. He never got the glasses or contact lenses. He couldn't see. So he was known as a hog. He didn't pass. He just didn't see the guy. guy. There's guys that like that.
But why aren't they calling for the puck? And that's something that we touched upon.
Well, yeah. Well, that's minor hockey guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, so anyways, yeah, Tom
That's
had a
good.
good skill set.
That's good. That's
skill,
good.
just not a just a different attitude.
But
Better feet than me.
A little bit better feet than you. Wasn't a goal scorer like you were, though. Wasn't a goal scorer.
But and
like,
it's
you were
funny.
a first round pick. He was a 17th, 18th round pick. So that'll tell you.
So who got it wrong? Their scouts or ours? I don't want your answer. I don't want your answer.
But you know what? So when he did get drafted at the end, we'll just wrap this up. But Tom, we won the Kitchener tournament that year. And the draft that Tom was drafted in, they hosted it in that building where they play the Kitchener Rangers. And we had to, I think we had one more game. We needed a team to lose to make it to the knockout round. And the game was being played in that building, and Tom was like, guaranteed we're going to make it to the next round because this is the building I was drafted in. So, you know, for a scouting report, the worst thing is you can't see. You know, that's not too bad, I would say. He did all right then, all right? But thanks again one more time. Louis, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure. It was great.
For sure.
I'm looking forward to the next time.
Awesome. And you did give us a good "What are you doing?" So I think I'm going to have to clip it out for our segment when we use it for "What are you doing?" and all the misplays that we see around the hockey world. But thanks again, Louis.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Wow, eh? Lui Vigilanti, like what a guy, what a hockey mind.
What a hockey mind, a legend.
Yeah.
But, bro, ninth round feet. Like you couldn't make it a sixth rounder. You could have turned the 9 upside down. We're from Toronto. Like throw up your sixes. You know what I'm saying? Like
You know.
9th round. Like come on.
Well, you know, and that's why I brought up his rawness, his honesty, and you know,
honesty doesn't mean always being right. Like that's a.
It's so true, and that's why he was able to kind of say, I missed the boat on this guy and that guy, and
But to his point, like I still have a problem with my right inside edge. So like I'm not twinkle toes out there. I'm not a figure skater. I'm not a ballerina. So maybe 9th is a little egregious.
Yeah.
I'll settle for a 3rd rounder. Because I've seen a lot of 3rd rounders that I'm just like, yo, he should be playing baseball. He should not be playing hockey with the way he's skating out there. So I'm going to put myself as a 3rd rounder feet.
For sure. And you know what? I think he did say that you weren't a bad skater. It was just ugly. I don't know if that makes it better, but
Lui Vigilanti. I'm gonna get you.
And I did tell you before we were going on the air with Louis, I said, he's just a realist. I mean, my first bit of coaching, I went to, I was nervous. I got there and I met Louis for the first time. And the first time I met him, he looks down and he goes, "Who wears red shoes on the bench?" And I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what shoes to wear. I'm wearing these Pumas. They're kind of warm. They're nice.
Who wears red Pumas?
And I'm already nervous as it's like my first time, coaching. And the guy brings up the shoes I wear and just, oh man, that's who he is. And we love him for it. And that's what the hockey world loves about him, right? You don't last 30 years, 20 plus years in the hockey world,
100%.
So
with some pretty powerful programs. Like
exactly.
He's been in the game. He's been doing his thing for a long time.
For sure.
We're so fortunate to have him.
For sure. And here we are, episode 7, and
Seventh heaven.
Your grandfather's number.
And mine and my son
So,
and my daughter.
Not only the 20th anniversary that we haven't talked about of the draft from when you were drafted, the 85s to the 2005s, but you know, the 7th episode, your grandfather, there's just so much magic happening here.
So much.
So much. But you know what? We wouldn't be at episode 7 if it wasn't for everybody showing us support and listening in. And, you know, you guys got to hear Lui tonight. We want to hear what you think about Lui. Could you handle being told that your skating was 9th round level skating, you know? Hey, at the end of the day, it's still a draft pick. You're still being drafted. So, you know what? We'll forget about that. But, you know, just please tune in and listen to us on the audio version. I know we get a little bit carried away in talking about hockey, which we love so much. We could go forever. But, you know, on the way to work in your car, slap us on, you know. Save the rest of the episode for on the way home, you know. Catch us on Spotify. We'll post our links up. You know where they are, Rain.
I don't know where they are right now because I'm not beside you.
That's true. We're kind of, I don't know where they are either. But subscribe, you know, like us on Spotify.
Like, follow,
The
comment.
YouTube subscribe button's down there. Please subscribe to us.
Participate. Be a part of the game.
And we have some more amazing guests coming up. Rain, tell us about next week. Dude.
I have no idea why these people are entrusting us to put on a safe environment for them. But next week, episode 8, we got Mr. Michael Fuda joining our studio virtually via Zoom. So we're excited about that.
Wow. And you might be back at studio finally next to me, so I shouldn't get too...
Probably not.
Oh! The jerseys aren't going up until you're back in here, all right?
Sounds good, my brother. Thank you guys so much.
Michael Fuda next week. Wow, that to me is like, I got to make sure I'm all business because you could get carried away and being in awe of that man's success.
He's the guy that started Lui Vigilanti, getting him back into, right? So on the heels of this great episode, we have the guy that gave Lui a lease on life in the hockey world, and it was also so instrumental in my hockey career.
Pretty cool.
Happy to have Lui today. Look forward to next week.
That's it. And maybe we'll ask Fuda about Lui.
No, we're definitely asking Fuda about Lui. I'm not letting him get away with 9th round feet. It's going to be the roast of Lui Vigilanti next week with Michael Fuda.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much. Please tune in every week, all day, every day. We love you guys.
What else you got to do?
We love everyone.
What else you got to do?
And
you're stuck at home anyway. Listen to us. Subscribe to us. Pass some time with us. 2 hours of content where you don't have to be searching the same website, Instagram over and over and over again, looking at the same boring stuff. Tune in.
And let's get corny on this.
Love and
be part of the game.
Oh! Of course. I'm like, I don't do corny. He's like, let's be corny. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but be a part of the game. I'm like, boy, be love.
Be part of the game with us. Rainbow, be love. We out of here.
Are you Rainbow, or is that guy Rainbow, or what's going on? We out of here. Thanks, guys.
Peace out, brother.